So today we are going to look at subtractive EQ, and at the end of this video I'm going to debunk one of the most misguided pieces of advice regarding high-pass filtration that, let us say, the non-professional creators on YouTube seem to want to offer. But first I have a small confession to make. Up to now we've been using a copied version of the Hard Time Pro Tools session. This has allowed me to produce this video series as well as at the same time continuing to work on the original version. Some of you may have seen in previous videos, this one for example, where we re-recorded some classical guitar due to the original recording picking up my heavy breathing. Also, we noted that on the vocal tracks they were over-de-essed, over-compressed, and were recorded a little too hot, so we got quite a bit of preamp distortion. So in this video we re-recorded Vernon doing the vocals. So now is the time where we're going to swap over to the live version, so to speak, and they are primarily the same but with the new guitar parts and the new vocal tracks. Some of you eagle-eyed of you may spot one or two other slight differences, but essentially we are going to continue where we left off on the last video. So as lovely and as sunny a day as this is, we ought to get back in the studio and get some work done. In the last video we covered the old chestnut of a question: what comes first, EQ or compression? We'll sweep for the resonance. So I will put into practice in this video some of the approaches we talked about in that video. And do a tight Q cut at the offending frequency. And that is essentially listening for any issues where subtractive EQ would benefit. So for the same reason, let's put a high-pass filter. So what do we mean by subtractive EQ? Subtractive EQ enables you to remove or attenuate specific frequencies within a track. By reducing unwanted frequencies like resonance, rumbles or harsh tones, you stand a much better chance of achieving a clean mix. So let's go have a look at how we do that. The drums for this track were recorded over 20 years ago on an Alesis ADAT and are certainly not the best track drums I've ever done. But we wanted to keep the original, so we'll need to help them along throughout this mixing process. The snare is particularly problematic, and at some point in the near future we're going to have to work hard to get it to sound a lot better. But for now, the first step is to remove some horrible resonances, and there are several to deal with. Just using the stock Pro Tools EQ, there are two ways that we can locate these harsh sounds. The first, and my preferred choice, is to tighten the Q and boost the frequency all the way, and then sweep for the offending sound. You'll hear when there is and I can't think of a much better term than an onkiness. Once you've identified the frequency, you can take it down to a gain level where the onkiness almost disappears. So let's go and find another. It is better practice to try and EQ some of these out before recording, which is certainly what we do now. But as I said, this is an old recording session. In total, there are 4 frequencies with issues. Another way to identify these frequencies with this particular EQ is to press the Start and Shift on a PC or Control and Shift on a Mac to solo the frequencies. So let's look at a few more examples. Now, on this guitar recording, you can hear a kind of high-pitched whistle. That is actually part of the headphone bleed, but is very distinct, so I think we can attenuate that frequency out. And lastly, for this type of subtractive EQ, there is a fundamental frequency on one of the notes of the sax, which again has a resonance. So it makes it sound boomier than the other notes. But subtractive EQ can also be used in conjunction with additive EQ to create separation of individual elements in a mix by reducing competing frequencies or by carving a space in the sound spectrum for instruments to sit. The most common example of this is a simple step for kick and bass. So let's solo the kick and find its fundamental. Okay, so that looks to be around 70 Hz. Now if we solo the bass, you will see the fundamentals are kind of in the same region. Therefore, the bass is likely to mask the kick. But we don't really want to turn the volume of the kick up, as that can then mask the bass. So we'll take an EQ and let's boost the kick at about 70 Hz by about 5-ish dB. And we'll use a fairly tight cue. But we're also going to cut by about the same amount at around 125 Hz for reasons that you will see shortly. Now on the bass EQ, we are going to do exactly the opposite as we did on the kick. So we shall cut at 70 Hz and boost at about 125 Hz, again by the same amount. Now you can hear that the kick and the bass both have their own space. You can hear them much better, and it sounds as if we've turned them both up, but their volumes are exactly the same. Mumbling something about privacy. So this is an example of EQ carving or shaping. And so we cover up our lives. You can use this approach throughout your mix if you find certain instruments clashing with each other, like guitars and keyboards. You can also do it to separate vocal parts, especially if sung by the same person. Now, as promised, high-pass filters. Be careful. You will see lots of videos showing engineers applying low-pass filters to almost everything except the kick and bass. They will say you need to do this to remove all the low end and rumble that you don't need, leaving space for the kick and the bass. But do not take this as literally as those guys kind of imply, and I'll show you why. Also, I'm going to show you how you can't rely on analyzers to decide where the high-pass filters should be set. Let us take this vocal performance by our man Vern. Looking at the analyzer, there seems to be nothing below about 100 Hz. So we could apply a high-pass filter at say 200 with a 12 dB per octave slope. Job done, all the low end is cut out. But let's turn that off and just solo the low end frequencies. This is everything below 125 Hz. You can clearly hear there is a lot of body and richness of the voice that, had we blindly applied the high-pass filter, we would have lost. But also on the analyzer, it didn't appear that there was any signal down there, when clearly there was. Now some of you might say, yes, but it's still not necessary to have those low-end vocals in the mix. Well, let's listen to some mixes by the likes of Bob Clearmount and Manny Marroquin. Due to potential copyright strikes, I can't play the unfiltered versions. So let's listen to this one. Now this is Tears for Fears, mixed by Bob Clearmount. You can clearly hear there is vocals down there. This is Seal, mixed by Manny Marroquin. And again, you can hear the vocals, and look at all the energy Manny has left in the sub bass. Paul Weller, mixed by Martin Hayes. This is Chris Rea by Neil Armour. In all these examples, you can hear the vocals in this bass region. Not only that, you can hear other instrumentation as well. And finally, Bruce Hornsby, mixed by Eddie King. So guys, be careful. Yes, use high-pass filters, but use your ears to decide where they need to be set. And also you need to decide what instrumentation could actually do with having some of that bottom end to give the whole mix a degree of richness and body. As always, I advise go check out the professionals here on YouTube. I am not one of them. We just hope that you're here to follow this journey to see if three old farts can make a record. So thanks for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel out, and it lets those YouTube analytical bots know that people are engaged and are interested in our channel. So we'll see you on the next one.